Welcome back, F1 fans, to Hitting the Apex here. Wanted to give you a quick recap of today's show. We've got the Austrian GP recap as me, Vish, and Moni will get to you. Talk about driver of the day, talk about our disappointments of the day. We'll review, our predictions. We got so much to talk about. Also, a lot of crazy, unnecessary stuff that's going on with F1 fans as well. We'll definitely address that. But Ferrari back on the podium in P1. Charles Leclerc finally back, but still having a lot of issues with Ferrari and their reliability. We'll talk about this and so much more on Hitting the Apex. Coming right back at you right now. Yeah. What's going on, Vish Daddy? Welcome to Hitting the Apex. What's going on, man?
I guess you're in a good mood. Could it be the return of Ferrari to the front of the grid?
Yeah, man. Of course. How can I not be excited about that? I mean, listen. I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to bring in another show, but look, I didn't even change today. After the first show. We had one hell of a show. So, I had to keep on the swag. And we'll go from there. But we got a pretty cool show today. Since we have a break in F1 action this weekend, we'll just break down the Austrian GP. A lot of interesting things going on in this race. Another exciting race. I know it wasn't the Canadian GP, but listen, it was still pretty exciting. A lot of different scenarios, a lot of different things going on. And I know, Vish, that you'll be excited to talk about that. Hopefully, Moni will join us in a little while I'm going to say, as she's chasing down a president, we'll just leave it there. She's a trip, man.
She's an actual reporter. So news happens sometimes.
Right. Yeah. We get home from work and this is what we do. This is her job. So, we'll give her the benefit of the doubt, but hopefully she'll be joining us a little bit later. But before we get to that, let's give a shout out to our sponsors here, Vish. Why don't you pull that up? For our friends over at You Brake Wheel Fix. Let's pull that up. Yeah, and yes, Fernie, I am a Canes fan, right? You Brake Wheel Fix. They repair damaged wheels from curb rash, cracks, or bends, all under one roof with house powder coating, CNC machining, and polishing. They also offer new custom wheels and tires from your favorite brands, such as Vossen, Forgiato, Fuel Off-Road, and more. They now even offer no credit check financing up to $5,000 for a new set of wheels. Fast turnaround times on all repairs, and they even provide loaner wheels in many cases. You Brake Wheel Fix is your total automotive wheel solution, located in North Miami, right off of Biscayne Boulevard and Northeast 146th Street. Check out some of their great work across all social media platforms from Instagram to Facebook. You can find them at You Brake Wheel Fix. That's at You Brake, so the letter U, Brake Wheel Fix. You'll see it there on the website. You'll see it there on the screen as well. Excuse me. You Brake Wheel Fix or online at youbrakewheelfix.com. Give them a call, 305-748-0112. Again, 305-748-0112, and schedule your appointment today. You Brake Wheel Fix, changing the way you see wheels. I feel like I'm losing my voice here today, man.
It's almost like you're hosting two shows in a row.
Just something like that.
Could be.
Something like that. Big shout out Vish, real quick, because I hate to do this, but this is how we do it here. I got to take this call, but go ahead and give them a little bit of a recap on the Austrian GP and let them know how you felt about it.
Yeah, so it was an interesting race. Ferrari had pace that was unexpected after qualifying and the sprint race, and so. To me, that was the big story is the pace of the Ferrari and just how they were quicker than the Red Bull. Max was talking about a tire issue that might have plagued his pace, but they had no answer for the Ferraris, and unfortunately, the Ferrari reliability hit Carlos Sainz again, so that that's like an ever-present problem. But yeah, Fernie, absolutely. The strength of the Ferrari is what my takeaway is really from this weekend was how much faster they were. They kind of sort of, had the strategy work. Their plan A worked, which was everyone's plan A, which was a one stop to go about 25 to 30 laps in the mediums, then go to the hards. Everyone else except for Hamilton and the two Ferraris shredded their tires. So Hamilton and the two Ferraris were kind of on their optimal strategy. And then, the way the race turned out, Ferrari was like, screw this, we're so much faster. We'll just safety pit and pass them back again. And they did that. So, they didn't even really use their optimal strategy when it looked at one point like it would be one stop versus two stops, Will Max, and it didn't even matter. They were so much faster. Fernie, it looked like a big part, right? I mean, that was these questions. I think this is the crux of it in a way. That Red Bull is talking about how they didn't expect the tire degradation. They pitted early, and they had lost the pace. Like Leclerc had already passed Max, and actually Sainz was about to when he went into the pit. So it definitely played a part. Really, the question is, Fernie is parking a plane. Is that for real?
What? You know what? I think I know what that means. Go ahead, continue.
Okay, I don't know all the slang. So I'll just leave that to one side. But,
I know too much. He was my roommate in college. I know too much.
Okay, all right, but yeah. So I think the tires play right into the pace. Right, it was the tires fell off faster than Red Bull expected, but the pace of the Ferrari was the story of the weekend and was going to look like an easy one too until Sainz had reliability issues, and so did Leclerc. He had to nurse the car home, but he did get it home.
Real quick, yeah. I mean, I was obviously very excited about the podium P1 for Charles Leclerc, back up there. And like you mentioned, Fernando, not Fernando or Vish. I'm looking at Fernando talking to Vish. As well as you all mentioned, Ferrari was just unbelievably fast, right? They had the pace. They were looking at a P1 and a P2 at a 1-2 podium until Carlos's car blew up, which is still a very, very big concern if you ask me. I don't. It's just concerning. It's disappointing, and we'll get into disappointments later. But again, yeah, you noticed the strategy just completely worked in their favor. I understand that Max may have had some issues. Checo was obviously not in the in the race at all whatsoever, so he didn't play a factor. But I mean, to see him up there, to see Lewis Hamilton as well have some pace and really drive really well as well was exciting. I thought this overall was a really, really good race. I'm sorry, Vish, you were going to say something.
Yeah, just on the Checo thing, I mean, to Fernie's questions about tire deg, it would have been interesting to see because Checo is famously one of the best drivers on his tires, had he actually been able to run the race, because he didn't make it out of like the second quarter because Russell took him out. Had he been able to run the race, it would have been interesting to see if even he had trouble, because that would point to a larger car issue.
Sure.
Right? I mean, it could be that Max just didn't handle the tires well this weekend, but if Checo also struggled on them, then they got a problem there. Again, in the British Grand Prix, remember they went to the hardest set. They went back to the softest range here. So even the hards in Austria were the softs at the British GP.
He did have better pace with the softer tires, right? Once he went to that last pit when he boxed the last time, and
it's so hard to say.
Yeah, you're right, because I mean,
Leclerc's car he was just trying to get it home.
True, and I think that had he not had those issues with the throttle, I think that he might have just disappeared on everybody.
Even then, Max didn't eat the time up. That it was very slowly eating it up,
Leclerc was still setting really good times, right? He was
still doing well. You could see he had to back out of some of the turns and stuff. But I feel like if the gap was closer after that pit, Leclerc would have gone faster. He knew what he had to hit. He knew he was nursing his car. He wasn't going to push it. If it came down to Max is going to pass him, he would have, I think, pushed it harder and risked frankly wrecking it, but he didn't have to do that. And I think, with DRS being so powerful, it's kind of like he knew how many laps were left. He knew what the deltas were. He knew he just had to keep Max out of DRS range. And so he did that. I'm distracted again. I'm sorry. So this is literal.
Yeah, because he was literally. he just sent me a text with a picture of him. I wish I could show you this. I wish I could post it up. It's hilarious. He literally was parking a plane. He really was.
I mean, I don't know how he topped that. We should just end the stream. I mean, I don't know how we're gonna do better.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I wish we could post that, Fernie. That was amazing, man. He really was parking a plane. That's unbelievable. So I mean, the dedication from you, my man, to watch not only this one but the 6 rings as well. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to you. Fan of the day right there. Fan of the day.
For sure. And he parks a plane right in the middle.
And he parks a plane. I mean, listen, come on now. What are we even talking about here? What are we doing? This guy's parking planes over here. I totally lost track of everything.
Something about tires. I don't know.
Something about tires. But
George Russell, man. He took out Checo. What the hell?
Get out of here. We're not talking about... Okay. So as an ode to some of our comrades, I guess now would be a good time. You all probably have not seen much of some of the other people on the show, but you will see. Hopefully, you'll see Moni here a little bit later. But Vish, maybe you kind of want to take it away.
Yeah. So just brief announcement. There have been some, let's just say, cast changes to the show. So kind of different things going on. Manny is frankly just overworked. Actually, check it out. They're bringing a new New York Yankees show to 5 Reasons. He's heading that up. He's also working for the Marlins now, so he just frankly didn't have the time. So he asked to kind of leave the show. He just didn't have time for this one, so he's out. Then we also felt that overall we needed to give more space on the show for everyone to talk. Maybe bring in guests, and also Nick will not be on the show either. Moni is definitely still a full-time cast member when she can show up, so. The pit crew is now Jazz, Moni, and myself going forward, and we think that's the best interest of the show. Will give us some space to. Yeah.
And it's nothing bad with Nick. You may see him on the show.
No, we definitely still might see him on the show. It was kind of just as on a regular week to week basis, we felt we probably had just too many people to bring in guests or to give everyone space to talk. So yeah, Nick is still part of 5 Reasons. He's part of the Marlins coverage as well as Jazz said. You'll still see him around here at some times. I'm sure it was just we kind of all got together and made some group decisions there. But if Jack Daniel shows up, no, we still have not fired Moni. So.
I know. I wonder why
she's busy. She's busy.
Busy chasing presidents.
She's chasing presidents. That's also literal. Bernie she is chasing a president around.
Chasing a president, and it's interesting. But all the love to Manny and Nick definitely, and hopefully we'll see him on here. Hopefully we'll see Manny crying a little bit more about Mercedes and George Russell in particular soon. But hey, listen. Getting back to that, George Russell, right off the gate, lights out, boom, not even finishing a lap, takes out Checo. What exactly happened there with him? And what? I mean, could there have been anything that they could have done different there?
Well, I mean, he's got to give the corner up. He got passed, and I think this is part of his learning process. One of the problems I had with the whole Mr. Consistency and is that a lot of it was, we've talked about, it's a lot luck based, but he's young. This is his first time in a competitive car. Like, when you're past, you're past. And you actually saw when Leclerc and Verstappen were battling later, and how methodically, like when Max had the outside line, was in front, Leclerc kept backing out of it. He's like, no, I have to back out of that. And Russell said there's nowhere for him to go. Yeah, you lost the corner. You have to back out of it. Like, if you're on the inside and the outside car is in front of you, you can't just continue the racing line into him. That is the penalty.
Right.
and that is the penalty that they always give out for that. So that was the move. Was you got past, you have to back out of the corner and let the other car through. He's on the racing line in front. And I think, and he wasn't the only one who did that. Gasly did it to Vettel, took him out, and got the same penalty. So it's a pretty standard penalty, but it did ruin. I think the big thing there is actually Russell, great recovery drive back up into fourth. Now he was like a full, again, way behind Hamilton, but good recovery drive, and certainly aided by some retirements, but good recovery drive. But I really think, given how much Max's car struggled, it would have been really, I think what we missed out there was just seeing how Checo's pace was. Because is it actually a Red Bull? Because if that's their pace right now, the pendulum swings back to Ferrari. 38 points is not that much.
And to be honest with you, I mean, 38 points is not that much, but it could have even been worse, right? You could have had 2 Ferraris, and I understand that's how the game is, right? Or that's how F1 is, I guess.
Right, but I guess my point is, if Ferrari has taken a step forward on a race pace like this,
right,
then all of a sudden these leads melt away quickly. Like, the
whole
thing has
been,
they
were. I mean, it wasn't like they were close. Like, they were, way
no,
faster,
they were so much faster that they decided, you know what, we'll take an extra pit stop and make up the time, and they did. And remember, Sainz's engine let go as he was passing Max.
Right.
I mean, they basically said, we can take the extra pit stop, give away, because their strategy was better. I know. I can't believe it either.
Crazy, I know.
So much so that they had actually saved a pit stop, and they're like, you know what? Just to be safe, we're so much faster. Let's just take the pit stop, put on the new tires. We'll pass them back easily, and they did. So yeah, if that pace is real, that pace difference, if they can carry that forward, that's a game changer on the season.
It definitely.
So and it's unfortunate we couldn't see what Checo did. I think that's the big thing.
Right.
And then I think the Mercedes finished 3-4, which they've had the uncanny ability to collect points while their car appears to be slow, and they did it again here. I mean, the 3rd and 4th, obviously, the Red Bull and the Ferrari, had retirements, and they're the next up. But Hamilton was 20 seconds off the top 2. Like, it wasn't close. Like, so there's still a big pace gap there. But yeah, to me, this race was about Ferrari. Ferrari, to answer your question, we're going to get to the whole FIA debacle from the weekend, from starting with Vettel storming out of the driver's briefing all the way through like the track limits. So
there's a lot to talk about.
We got a whole. The good thing about not having back-to-back races is we got time to actually talk about some of this stuff, because we're not immediately previewing the next race.
Exactly. I mean, and the other one, that's a first for Ferrari. They actually had a strategy. Look, they always have a strategy. They just had the right one this time.
Yeah, when it was like lap 5 or whatever, they're like, Carlos, we're going to Plan E. That every Ferrari fan was like, "Oh God, they're already on Plan E."
Yeah, it was a nice curveball that Mattia Binotto threw everybody there. We're going to Plan E. Plan E is just execute. Heard you guys mentioned something about the crew and being diminished. All right, Tap, I hear you. Anyways, we'll talk. Real quick, let's go over the predictions, right? Because these predictions are interesting this time around, aren't they, Vish?
I wonder why Jazz is rubbing his hands together.
These predictions are interesting. So last week, Vish had a prediction of Hamilton in P1, Leclerc P2, and Checo P3 with Max DNFing. So you got the Checo and Max mixed up there, first of all, right? So Checo's DNF. But I mean, you've got 2 out of the 3, right? You've got Leclerc and Hamilton, not in that position, but they both were on the podium, except Leclerc was P1 and Hamilton was P3. And of course, your Max DNF didn't come to fruition. Unfortunately, well, I don't want to say unfortunately. That's the Ferrari fan in me talking. It is what it is. However, we should talk about this prediction that Jazz gave here. Let's talk about it a little bit. This guy, I don't know much. I really don't know much. I'm just a fan here. All right. I'm the fan of the show. Top 3. So his 3 were in this order: Leclerc P1, Max P2, and Hamilton P3. And I freaking nailed it. How did I do that, Fish? Tell me.
We're never gonna hear the end of this, are we?
I am an absolute. I'm a genius. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I'm a genius. I did have Zhou Guan Yu in the top 10, and that really didn't work for me. But everything else, listen. Anybody out there that is maybe doing a little something on the side, need to make a quick buck or two, hey, just let me know. See what I can do. But here are your standings for.
Well, this is the race finish, just so
your
we
race
can.
finish, yeah.
So just to confirm to everyone.
Yep, I hit it right on the head. What a stud! What a stud you are, Jazz. Jesus, my goodness.
Yeah, well, let's find. What happened here?
So I screwed up on the surprise, but I'll take the podium any day over that. All right, I'll take the podium. Poor Joe. I mean, what a rough week. You know, you got to give it to him. At least he actually raced. Okay, the guy almost had his head torn off 2 weeks ago. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Still raced. This time around, no points for the Williams, unfortunately. I think this time they decided to sit this one out, right? But as you can see there, the top 10 goes as is. Charles Leclerc P1, Max Verstappen P2, Lewis Hamilton P3, and then you've got George Russell in 4, Esteban Ocon in 5, Mick Schumacher with another solid. Listen, that's a solid ass drive by Mick Schumacher. Okay, at 6, Lando at 7 in the McLaren. You got Mags in 8 in the other Haas. So double points for Haas, double points for McLaren as Danny Ricciardo makes it into the top 10. Nice drive by Danny Ricciardo. Finally gets in, as well as Fernando Alonso finishing up the top 10 in the Alpine. So
and
double points by Haas and McLaren.
Yeah,
nice.
we talked about it on Sunday's show, but that the Haas, that was actual pace.
It was.
And we don't know where it came from because they have not upgraded the car at all. But that was actual pace. They look quick to the point that 7, some might argue 8-time world champion, just like we have a 6th championship at Miami football champion Lewis Hamilton. At one point, got on the microphone and said, "Man, they're quick on the straights." He's talking about a Haas.
He's talking about a Haas. That was
unbelievable.
Wow. I'll take it though. I'll take it.
Oh yeah, no, they were there on merit. And then Fernando Alonso actually he had a bit of a rough race. They messed up his pit stop and dropped him into traffic. They went for hard on the first 2 changes, so he had to have a forced 3rd pit stop, which they then screwed something up and he had to go back into the pits again for a 4th pit stop. That's a very impressive 10th. He actually pitted consecutive laps towards the end of the race because they screwed his pit stop up and there's some kind of a vibration. So that is a really impressive 10th. And I'm sure we'll be looking at the standings in a second, but Alpine has erased the actually we'll go right into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is the Constructors first, just because on the point I was making. There is now
there is definitely
a tie.
Top 3. There's definitely look at that tie.
Yeah, okay. That's what I was getting at. So even with Alonso kind of, they pissed away some points there. The Alpine is now tied McLaren there for 4th.
That's interesting. I mean, Ferrari's not what is it, 56 points away?
Yeah, that's very, very doable at this stage. There are 44 points available for a team at a normal race, a non-sprint race. So that is, and we talked about this on Sunday again, half point of the season right now. So a lot of racing left to go. And
this is a team, Ferrari, that can definitely get you those P1, P2s, those 1-2 finishes. Like you said, if that pace is real, then the Red Bull's got some competition. It's going to be interesting. I mean, look, Max is still driving incredibly. So if they can if Ferrari continues to keep up this pace or get even better, Red Bull's going to have to find a little bit more pace in that car, and they will. They'll try. They'll definitely try to do that, and it's going to be an all-out battle now. I think that if they can get rid of their reliability issues, Ferrari, I think that this is going to be interesting going down the second half of the season. So you've got Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes in the top three, McLaren and Alpine tied for fourth, Alfa Romeo in sixth or fifth, however you want to say it, Haas with 34 points in seventh, AlphaTauri in eighth, and you've got Aston Martin in ninth and Williams in 10th.
I will say, looking at these standings, I don't think anyone really had AlphaTauri behind Haas, and there they sit.
There they sit. AlphaTauri behind Haas. Yep. Look, I think that this is it's what we expected in the top. The bottom, I think it's just interesting. It's fun to watch what's going on in the midfield and even in the lower half because like you said, you've got Haas, who had a great drive. You got Albon, who showed a little bit of pace, but then kind of dove off a little bit later on. So it's fun to see what's going on because we all know that at the top it's going to be a Red Bull Ferrari battle through and through. So looking at the driver standings, the World Championship for the drivers, hey, 38 points is, I mean, Leclerc is breathing down Max's neck now, which is nice to see for Ferrari fans. You still got Checo. You got Checo and Sainz there, who both did not. They both didn't finish the race, so they stayed exactly where they were. In third and fourth, George Russell just slightly behind Carlos Sainz, with Lewis gaining a little bit on his compadre there, on his
yeah,
partner.
I will say I would be pretty shocked if by the end of the season Hamilton is not in front of Russell. He has been significantly faster.
I'd be pretty shocked if Hamilton didn't make it to the top three at this point.
I don't, unless the attrition continues. You got to understand, like, he's finished every race.
Yeah,
that's why he and Russell are just like they're the tortoise, right? Slow and steady. They finish the race and they're very far behind. But if Perez and Sainz keep blowing up, then yeah, sure.
Right. I guess. Yeah. You make a valid point there.
Because I mean, easily, like if you look at like Sainz wins a race, which he could do again, right? He's won one. It takes Hamilton or Russell 2-3 races to make up those points because they don't score 25.
Very true. Very true. Lando Norris is in seventh. Esteban Ocon in eighth. Valtteri Bottas, who's been struggling the last couple of races, in ninth. Fernando Alonso rounds out the top 10. Then you've got Mags, Danny Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly, Sebastian Vettel in 14th, Mick Schumacher in 15th, getting some points 2 straight weekends, if I'm not mistaken. Yuki Tsunoda.
You are correct.
Zhou Guan Yu struggling a little bit, but I see the talent at least in Zhou.
Yeah, I'm still a fan of his. Yeah.
As am I. I think that he's definitely got a career there in Formula One, and I think that he's going to get better. He's going to learn some things and be able to execute a little bit better. So I like him. Alexander Albon in 18th in the Williams Mercedes. Lance Stroll 19. Nicholas Latifi and Nico Hülkenberg rounded out the top 21.
Latifi's lucky that Vettel had COVID for a couple of races, so Hülkenberg technically drove, so he's not the only pointless driver. And you better hope no one else misses a race.
Right, exactly. Because if not, I mean, he might end up in 22nd somehow. We'll figure that out later. But that is your driver standings. Without further ado, hey, look at Jack Daniels. You joined the show right now. And guess who else joins the show with you, buddy? Thought about you, and we said, what the hell? Here she is, Moni Leroy.
Hey.
What's up? What's up?
How are you guys?
Good. Are you done? Are you done chasing presidents?
At least for today, I am. At least for today.
Oh boy! Well, we're happy to have you back.
Well, the glamorous life you lead. So.
I know.
Oh my God! Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Just running in the nasty Miami mid-July heat and humidity. It's so great. I love it. I love it. It is a glamorous lifestyle.
You have to love it. You have to love it to do it. So
100%.
but we appreciate you coming on a little bit later on and talking a little F1 with us. Look, we kind of went over a couple things. We went over the constructors, we went over the drivers' championship, and we went over kind of our take on the race. We also went over how much of a genius I am for getting the predictions absolutely right on the head.
He went over how much of a genius he is. I
know Vish had no business with that. I know he was just minding his own business. That was all Jazz. I know for that.
It was all me because I'm an absolute stud for getting them right. Anyway,
I blame George Russell. It's my default anyway, and he took Checo out. I had Checo up near the
top. Anyways, we didn't get your predictions, but what'd you think of the race as a whole? And talk to us a little bit about just what you saw and what you felt, how you felt the race went.
Yeah, sure. So I don't run with the same luck that Jazz runs with. My predictions, they're usually a bit off, but I like to play around with my predictions. So I've come to terms with the fact that I'm probably not gonna nail them every single time. Maybe I'll nail it like 2 out of 10 times, which is okay because everyone can grow, everyone can change, so that's fine. As for this race, I actually had Leclerc finishing P1 because I've had him P1 for the last 4 weeks, the last 4 races, and I've been wrong every single time. So I was like, you know what, let me just give it one more try. Hopefully he finally finishes P1, and he did. So I think that broke my bad luck streak. I had Max finishing P2 and I had Russell finishing P3, but whatever.
By the way, Jack, you're absolutely right. It's all luck, no skill anyway. You're absolutely right.
No. I didn't mean that either. I was just saying, I don't know. I was giving a little bit of context when it comes to my predictions that are totally horrible.
Jack is making an accurate statement there. So
where's the lie? Where's the lie, Jack? I don't see the lie.
I like how we call him Jack Daniels as if that's a sexual.
I know. By the way, it's definitely not, all right? Because he did send us a tweet.
Yeah, he did send us a tweet.
And it's not Jack Daniels. But
actually, Jack, when you listen to the replay, we did address your question that you had asked earlier in the show. So
yeah, we did. Sorry, we hijacked you there, Moni. Go ahead.
It's okay. Well, of course, I have to mention Checo. He's my favorite driver. A bit disappointing, a bit heartbreaking. I'm not gonna lie to you. However, I didn't really have him in my top 5 for this Grand Prix, just because of his performance during the weekend. I didn't really see a very solid Checo, except for the sprint, I believe. Right? If you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, he finished P5. Right? So I think that's probably like the only event where I felt a little bit confident in Checo, but I definitely did not expect him to DNF like that. So when it comes to Ferrari, I think they had an above average race, at least when it comes to Leclerc. And in terms of pace and in terms of strategy, I think that they also had an above average race, also because, they've been grilled long enough about their poor strategy decisions or like their strategy struggles. So I think that they kind of stepped up this weekend during the race. So good for Ferrari. Now that you guys told me that as I jumped in, you guys were discussing the standings and stuff. I'm actually really excited that Leclerc finished P1 this Sunday because the gap between Max and Leclerc is narrowing. So I just find that exciting, and it adds like a little bit of spice to the season. So the more that gap narrows, I feel it just gets more interesting. And as you guys were mentioning, as soon as I jumped in, it's probably going to be like a Ferrari Red Bull battle for the championship. So I wouldn't mind, seeing Leclerc stay at the top for a little to make that gap a little more narrow. In fact, I find it a little bit enticing. I'm not going to lie. But overall, I really enjoyed this weekend. I love the sprint. Super proud of Haas. I think there was like a collective feeling in the world of pride. The entire world, the entire universe was proud. The pictures of NASA this week showed how proud the universe was of Mick and Kevin. So what can I say? The planets aligned in Haas's favor. So that's kind of my executive summary for
and in McLaren's, all right?
And McLaren's too. That's what I'm saying.
Double point power.
Yeah.
Look, I think that it was exciting. It was exciting. The planets aligning. I mean, Moni speaking blasphemy. How could you?
No.
Red Bull.
No.
Déjala. Let her give. You got to give credit where credit is due. That's it.
I agree.
I
agree. But Fernie can be a bit close-minded. Okay, since he's over here, coming for my neck. I don't mind coming for anybody else.
The man just parked a plane, though.
I know he literally parked the plane, and now he sent me another image of him with all the luggage. Listen, Fernie, take it easy with that luggage, right? Don't be a sicko. All the love for Tap, man. What did he say, Jack? McLaren's testing 2 drivers by the end of the season. 2 Indy drivers?
So in regard, I think these are kind of all related. So they are. McLaren has an Indy team, right. So those are their Indy drivers. I think those are longer term views. Ricciardo came out actually today and said he was going to drive for McLaren next year. Zach Brown came out and said Ricciardo is driving for us next year. So unless something happens that has not already happened, it's not going to just be because Ricciardo's off the pace.
Yeah,
that's going to get him replaced. So it'll have to be something else. I think there's just probably too much money tied up in it, to be honest.
No.
He's on a huge contract and they'd have to pay it. So he'll probably be there, but he is unbelievably slower than Lando, to the point that Lando's engine blew in practice. They put an old engine in there that was down on power, and Ricciardo couldn't keep up. He was still quicker than him. Something going on there. There's something going on there. I know he's not comfortable in that car, but there's something going on there. And I know someone mentioned that earlier that Checo may not be comfortable in the car, and they're kind of and that's why he's been having some issues recently. I don't know how true or how legitimate that is, but because I still think that Checo could find some pace every once in a while and win a race. We saw him do it earlier this season as well. Well, I think he was headed to at worst 4th.
Right.
It wasn't his fault that Russell hit him off the track. In this case, he was. I guess we'll talk about in a minute when we talk about Vettel storming out of the driver's briefing and kind of the overall track limits debacle from the whole weekend. But he had to start in 13th in the sprint race because his last qualifying time got deleted. He easily ate the field up. Remember, Hamilton was in front of him, was started in, I believe, 9th in the sprint race. Checo passed him along with a bunch of other cars, got it all the way up to 5th, and then was in the process of passing Russell into 4th.
Right.
When he got knocked off the track. And look at the pace of the Ferrari. That was the second best car this weekend. At worst, he was going to finish 4th. It's a shame. Really, it's a shame him and Sainz didn't finish the race, because I thought that would have been pretty exciting to see them kind of battle it out. Well, especially Checo, I wanted to see if he had the tire issues, if his pace was there, and we didn't get that chance because.
Well, speaking of tire issues and degradation and, missing the apex, not hitting it as this show does often. So stupid. Such a cornball sometimes. Anyways, gotta make it exciting here. Listen, so just track limits, right? Obviously, there was a lot of penalties this past weekend. Track limits being the culprit many times for a lot of the drivers, and then we'll kind of jump into Vettel. Kind of start.
Well, it's. I think it's all related.
I guess it's kind of all related, anyways. But what exactly happened there? Why was Vettel so kind of pissed off? I guess.
Well, I think overall the drivers are just not happy with the stewarding. It's inconsistent. Their decision to fix the problem Michael Massey created last year by
the way, he's completely out of the FIA.
Yeah, well, I mean, he has been on what the Brits call gardening leave, where you pay someone to not work.
Right.
And now he's officially gone.
What we Americans call paid leave.
Yeah,
but anyways,
suspended with pay. Suspended with pay. So yeah, he's officially gone. But Fernie's right. So their way to fix that was we'll rotate race directors, we'll do things more committee-ish, and what you're getting is just a lot of inconsistency. So again, we're not in the driver's briefing, but allegedly what happened is Vettel and some of the other drivers want to talk about some of the larger issues about how they're inconsistently policing things like overtaking and, giving penalties out to some weekends and the next weekend they don't. So they don't really know if, am I allowed to overtake like this, or can I block a certain way? There was a pretty big example at the end of the British GP when Max was struggling and Mick was all over the back of him, and Max was not leaving a car's length and kind of sliding all over the road. And they'd given, if you recall the previous race, Fernando Alonso got a penalty for weaving on the straight and not letting Bottas pass him. So that was some of the stuff they were talking about. And ironically, the stewards just want to talk about track limits. And finally Vettel was like, F this, and just got up and left.
And if you think about it, right, it's a little, it's petty sometimes, right? You're going to give him a warning or a penalty for weaving to try to block Bottas. I get it. That's some of it is part of how, you're supposed to race, right? You're not supposed to do certain things. But at the same time, if I'm a competitor, I don't want the damn guy behind me to pass me, right? I don't want him to overtake me. So there's
right. And I think
it's a little petty sometimes.
But again, I think their issue is the consistency. And this is where
Sure.
Is this a penalty or not? Because it's a penalty when Alonso does in Canada. It's not a penalty when Verstappen does it in Silverstone. Is it going to be a penalty this week? And they can't get a straight answer.
Right.
And so that's where the frustration boiled over. And then the way I think everyone thought the track limits thing was on one level you can tell the drivers, keep it within the lines. You don't have this problem. But that was pretty farcical.
Vish, this is a good question from Tap. Do I see the F1 making more of a push to leave the FIA, like college football leaving the NCAA?
I could see that happening. I think we're still a little bit.
So where do they move to though? What?
Well, they run it themselves. It's actually the better
have
analogy.
Their own governing body, basically.
Yeah, I think the better analogy which is probably one that most, if you're an American audience, won't get or probably won't remember. But it was when they made the Premier League and they broke away from the British FA. So the British Football Association used to run the entire English pyramid, and they basically the top level, which is F1, right? Because there's an F2 and an F3 that the FA also runs. The top level is you guys suck. We can run this better ourselves, and that's what the Premier League is. So it'd be like that. They would just run the series themselves. Basically, we don't need the FIA here. We can do this ourselves. Now, is that true? To a certain extent, probably. They would still need some kind of. The amount of bickering these teams do, it's hard to imagine them actually agreeing on a set of rules and enforcements, but they would need to do that because someone's going to have to run this series. But it would basically be we can run the series better ourselves. We don't need you guys here.
Does the FIA? Here's my question: does the FIA have anything to do with the finances for each of these teams, as far as how much money they are all making or using, or budgeting wise, all those things? How is that going to change if they do move away from the FIA?
Well, it's a completely different cost structure. They'll if assuming they can run it, they would probably make more money off of it.
And I know that these things we're talking about are this is not going to happen right now.
No, not anytime soon.
Yeah. I get you.
But they'd probably make more money off. That's why the Premier League exists. We'll keep the money.
Right. Sure.
More recently, that's why they wanted to form a European Super League. Why is UEFA taking all this money?
Right. Makes sense.
So it's kind of one of those things. We can just keep the money ourselves and run it better.
Sure. Fair enough. Let's talk a little about something else that I think we all find quite a bit disturbing. Was the, as this article wrote here, Vish, I don't know if you want to pull it up or not, but the first one says F1 to discuss unacceptable. So the Formula this unacceptable harassment that was reported by a number of fans at the Red Bull Ring with the Austrian Grand Prix promoter. And there's just some of the things that I heard about was, sexual harassment, messing with with some of the women there, homophobic and racial slurs, catcalling, and other abusive comments. Like, look,
and to be blunt, it was the orange idiots waving the flares. I mean, I don't think we need to. Everyone's kind of tap dancing around that. That's who it was.
See, I exactly, I don't mind saying who it was. I wasn't 100% sure. I'm glad that you said
it's
that.
in. I mean, it's referenced in some of those articles. Okay. Like one woman was sexually harassed, and they comment on how she was a Hamilton fan. I think that's where the racism
they lifted up her
into.
skirt, right? They lifted up her skirt.
Yeah, it is disgusting behavior.
There is no room in any sport or in anything, period, in life for that type of behavior from any person, adult or not. And the fact that we're still having to address these things, whether it's in the States, whether it's in Europe, whether it's anywhere in the world, it is quite frankly, it is unacceptable. So, the Orange Army takes things overboard big time. Yeah, but it's not only, listen, yes, it was them primarily, but it's not only just them. I mean, if you go to other places in the world, if you go to other races, you're going to experience some stuff also. I really want to get your take, both of you. We'll start with you, Moni, on, just the effect that this type of behavior has, and since we're talking specifically on hitting the apex, on Formula One sports, for females, right? For women who really want to get into it, because a lot of people see, the bottom line is a lot of people are like, female women don't know F1. They're just in it because they think that, Pierre Gasly is cute, or Lewis Hamilton is so awesome, or, whatever the reason is that they're using to justify why women like F1. I'm going to be honest with you right now. We have a woman on this show, and she is just as knowledgeable, if not more. I guarantee you, more than me. So, the point is, like, there's no room in this sport for that.
The humility after nailing your predictions is look at this gentlemanly conduct here.
Hold on a second. Time out. I'm still a stud for that. All right. Don't get me wrong. But let's
don't put words in his mouth.
Come on. I'm just saying. But the truth is, like, there's no room for that, and I hate it because it's geared towards women a lot of the times. It's geared towards Lewis Hamilton because because he's a black driver, and it's geared towards a lot of people that are not the Orange Army or whatever the case may be. Talk to me a little bit of how it affects Formula One and how it affects the viewership of the female fan that really does enjoy F1.
Well, I think that's a really sad, I guess, stereotype that women have to deal with, even like across sports. The fact that it's been so normalized to say that just because a person is a woman, that maybe they're not into a sport for the right reasons, whatever that right reason might be, or maybe they're not knowledgeable just because they're a woman, etc. It's definitely really hurtful to women, in this case, that do love Formula One, whether because they just enjoy motorsport, they like watching it, they grew up watching it, so they know about it, regardless of what it is. I think that once you start, I guess, judging a person for whatever reason that they're into a sport, then you're kind of reaching. And it's as you said repeatedly, it's unacceptable. And it's kind of crazy that this happens so often. The Orange Army, it was giving me like hooligan vibes. Like, I was like, what's going on? Are these hooligans? Like, I don't know. It was just getting a little too crazy for me. And that the issue with that woman that was a Mercedes fan, I think it was. I can't remember if she was like a Hamilton fan or something like that, but she was, right? Yeah, she was a Hamilton fan, and then she was literally harassed by some Verstappen fans just because she was a Louis fan and a Mercedes fan, and of course she ended up getting called into the Mercedes garage and everything in light of everything that she experienced. Sure, cool, she got into the garage, but at what cost, So it's
Good point.
It sucks to kind of feel that as a person you're disrespected for whatever reason. And as when we were speaking about the whole PK situation, it's just it's too late in the game for all of this, and it happens repeatedly. And I guess you could say that it happens to minority groups, like the women or the people of color. That there's just I feel like there's a little bit of a feeling of like a complex of superiority coming from a certain group of people, and not just in Formula One, and not even just in sports, but just in general, that we've kind of like put together and accepted as a society. But I'm happy that the right people are standing up, and they're standing up against it, and they're calling it out. And I'm happy that Formula One has been so vocal about any type of issue that has been going on during these Grand Prix. So it sucks. It sucks that we have to have this conversation quite often, but it is what it is. As long as I guess we speak up and the right people stand up to it, and everyone just speaks up about it, then I guess we're taking baby steps, but it's progress.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I agree with everything Moni said. I don't have much to add. I would just say, if I'm disappointed in the because it's generally not a majority. I know the Orange Army, they were lighting flares and stuff, which, as Fernie said, not great. Trying to drive cars around at like 200 miles an hour. Maybe I'd like to be able to see. I don't know, as a driver, rather than seeing orange smoke. Like, I don't know. To Moni's point, I think I'm also obviously a minority. I think we all are. So I've certainly gone to college football games as a road fan and experienced some stuff at times. It tends to be a pretty, let's just say, paper-colored crowd. And, when you see things like flares, and I think frankly, people that haven't experienced that, and the commentators are like, wow, what an atmosphere. And I'm like, I get a little nervous when I see that stuff, because this always seems to be where it ends up. It always seems to end up with someone doing something racist or sexist. And for whatever reason, in those group atmospheres, when they start acting crazy, it's the logical next step. But the other thing I would say around that, though, is, or it's the illogical next step, maybe the better way to say it. But the thing I would say around that is, we always feel like the vast majority aren't doing this. But the vast majority are standing there and watching it happen. And while that's not as bad, it's almost as bad. If you're at a race and you see someone being sexually harassed, step in there. Say something. If 95% of people agree this is wrong, why are they doing this and just walking away? And then after the fact, like, the woman has to report it. She has to like Moni said, at what cost? Is traumatic, right? If they even choose to do that, because some of them don't want to do it, because you have to talk about how, like, you were treated like that. Like, who wants to go relive that? So it's just, it's putting them in an untenable situation. It's unacceptable. And frankly, I hate to say this, but Max, when he started talking about how I think there was alcohol involved, I'm like, who gives a crap?
Yeah.
And that's what Toto said, by the way. He was kind of like, he used the F word multiple times, but I mean, that's not an excuse for this. And so hopefully, like, they find the fans that did it are banned, but they got to police it better on the way in. Like, why are they getting all these flares into the race in the first place? Like, that's not, like, they're, again, it looks like this was the level of incident, but there's certainly people in the crowd with asthma and stuff. Like, what are we doing? It's supposed to be a safe place. It's expensive as hell. Mm-hmm. Like, you're spending all this money, and then you're going to get harassed. You're going to choke. To me, it's just like, what's going on? The FIA once again, like, you got to do better with this stuff. And in soccer, God, I almost went full British and called it football. In soccer, they have like hooligan registries and stuff where, like, they know, like, these people are not allowed to go to games, and maybe they got to start doing that Formula One races.
Yep. Two things for me. Number one, the flares. Look, I get it that it looks great on TV, and even it looks cool if you're at the race, right? Because at the Miami GP. Looks cool. There wasn't as many as there was obviously there in the Red Bull Ring for obvious reasons, and it looks cool and all. But I think that from a safety perspective is not very cool. And I think that, hindsight, yeah, I mean, I definitely would have said something if it was in my area. It wasn't in my area. But at the same time, like you said, Vish, it has to be policed a little bit better. If that's happening in front of my face and some guy does that in front of my face to a woman, regardless of who it is, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna lay that person out, right? Like that's not gonna fly around me. It's not gonna fly, and it shouldn't fly around anybody, man or woman. Like you said, you got to step in, and you have to, say something at the very least. Because if not, they're just going to continue to get away with things like that. And nothing's going to change. And I know it's very hard to get everything to change because, the typical, and this is not a knock, but the typical American fan or the typical person living in the United States doesn't realize that this goes on everywhere, all over the world. It's not just here. It's not just localized in Miami, or it's not just localized in Arkansas or LA, wherever. You can throw anywhere. It doesn't just happen here. And this is a perfect example of the fact that this is a world issue. This is not just a United States issue. Racism, sexism, you name it, harassment. It's all over the country, and it's with different people. It might be more prevalent here for, one set of people, whereas somewhere else it's different. It's a different type of harassment. It doesn't matter. The point is that it's everywhere. It's all over the world, and now everybody that gets to see it needs to figure out needs to be something that has to be done to be able to regulate this and make this better and more of a better experience for the average fan who is not like that, who doesn't believe in those things or have those type of beliefs. Whether it's kicking their ass when they need it, because that's what happens, that's what they need, and banning them for life, or educating people, one way or the other. It's got to change. So I think that hopefully it does. Verstappen coming out and condemning those fans really doesn't do anything. Let's be honest, right? Like there has to be more done. I'm not saying that they're not trying to do more. These, a lot of these drivers are not trying to do more.
Well, I would say he condemned them, but then he said, sometimes when you have too much alcohol and all this,
right?
Like, no excuses. Like, stop it. Like,
yeah.
This is the second time. I know he's dating Nelson Piquet's daughter, so it puts him in an awkward position.
Right.
But you're the world champion.
Yeah.
Not justifiably. Like, show some leader. We're gonna really miss Hamilton and Vettel when they're gone, because the moral compass of the sport is in those two old people.
But that's where the moral compass is in most places, anyways. Is in
100%. Yep.
It's a shame, and I have this conversation all the time with people here. Whether it's at work or in personal life, it's true. The moral compass, and is in a lot of the older people. But again, at the same time, a lot of the old ways are the bad ways as well. So you've got a lot of the older people that are still stuck in those antiquated ways.
Well, I mean, I don't want to speak for generations
it's a little bit of both.
that are younger than me, but I think it's in a way, like, I mean, Jazz and I are of similar age. Moni, I think you're probably significantly younger than the two of us. We were kind of alive when there was more overt stuff. So in a way, it's easier for us to almost see it because we know there's malicious intent.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've grown up where you kind of didn't overtly get slapped in the face with it constantly, it's a little bit different. Like, we kind of grew up in an era where, like, people would just casually use the N-word. It's like, no, that there are people like that, and I think,
and the F word, and I'm not talking
about
I'm not talking about the one that Toto used.
Yeah, exactly, the other one. And so I think for us, it's easier to imagine people thinking that. Whereas maybe if you're younger, you kind of grew up where that stuff was not acceptable your entire life. And so you're kind of like, no, they didn't really. And it's I guess maybe a little bit easier to think the best intentions in people, which is actually a good thing. We should have that attitude. But for me, I'm like, nope, that's a racist. I know racist when I see them.
It's kind of cringeworthy now, right? Like it's kind of you cringe. Yeah. You're like, oh, why did he say that? It doesn't sound right. Whatever. But it is what it is. And we gotta do something about it. And we gotta. We'll see.
Guys, but I mean, how old are you? Like 21?
See, you see, this is why
You guys are like 21 years old anyway. So.
This is, I mean, Moni, listen here, all right?
Yeah.
This is why. This is why you know, a little stroking of the ego never hurt anybody.
And, yeah.
I mean, I'm already full of myself as it is, with these spread predictions, and now you're saying I'm 21. Oh, Jesus.
I'm feeding your ego. What am I doing? Yeah. What am I doing?
I appreciate it. This is why you're the best.
Fernie's on a roll. This man is on a roll today. How's your bedtime, Fernie? Let's go.
Oh, Fernie. I'm going to leave it there. He's not Colombian. Oh, what am I talking about? But anyways, yeah, I totally lost my train of thought after my ego got stroked there. Now I'm like,
you know what? I'll
please, Vish.
Let me. I know we're about out of time here. We did have one more thing we're going to talk about, which Fernie actually asked about.
We are out of time.
Yeah, but let me just add. So this is
actually so
good. This has actually been delayed till Belgium now. For the new floor regulations.
Oh, gotcha.
So it was supposed to originally come in next race in France, but they've delayed till Belgium. For those that aren't familiar with that subject, so we've been wondering why the Mercedes porpoise is so bad, and why the Ferrari and the Red Bull maybe aren't, and it could be because they cheated.
Because we're cheating.
So.
Because we're cheating. It's obvious.
Apparently, they have movable floors that obviously dampen the porpoising when it's not a seesaw going back and forth and it's independent. It does not shock you. So what the FIA is doing, this is actually, we talked a few weeks ago about how you can't make a new rule up with the technical directive, and they tried to do that in Canada. This is actually, what they're doing is they're changing what they're testing for to try and detect these flexible floors, which I would say Red Bull may be more affected just based on how much Kristen Horner was screaming about this.
Right.
But yeah, we can maybe talk about more of that next week because we are kind of going through the show. But
that'll be fun. Yeah, next week we've got France, right?
France.
So that'll be fun as we go back to I guess. Well, who's French? Oh, Gasly, Ocon. Okay, so we got
there's some French drivers here. Gasly and Ocon. Leclerc and Faggot.
Kind of throw in as Leclerc, right? You can kind of throw in Leclerc as well. So that's going to be a fun race to cover as well. We'll definitely be on next Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Right here, same channel, 5 Reasons Sports YouTube network. Make sure you check us out here. Also on Twitter at F1_5 Reasons, or you can just search Hitting the Apex. You can find us on the podcast anywhere you listen to the podcast as well. Just search Hitting the Apex, excuse me, and you'll be able to find us there. All the shows will be stripped down to a podcast as well. So on your ride to work, you can definitely check us out if you can't look at our beautiful 21-year-old faces. I'm gonna run with that one now, baby. I'm gonna run with that one. No, but in all jokes aside, we do appreciate everybody coming on the show and checking us out. Make sure you check us out every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. on the 5 Reasons Sports Network and on Twitter at F1_5 Reasons. Vish, Moni, you guys have been great. Amazing show. We can't wait to get back out here on Wednesday night and cover the French Grand Prix. And we'll see you guys next week. Adios.
Bye.